So, yeah, I was saying today we have one of those gospels that are a bit mysterious and hard to understand. You know, you have to love whoever loves father, mother more than me, your son or daughter more than me, or your very self more than me. You're not worthy of me. So I'll just propose a key word so that we can understand the context of what Jesus is saying. Okay, and I think this passage from the Gospel of Matthew says it all. From the Beatitudes. No? Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for holiness. Okay, some Bibles say uprightness, some Bibles say righteousness. But in some Bibles also it says holiness. So blessed are those who hunger for holiness, they shall have their fill. And that is the context of what Jesus is saying, no, about all this preferring him more than others. Okay, just a little key so that we can enter, so that I will not get lost also. Okay, so but apart from just trying to give a little atmosphere for today in our guidelines, this is our main theme. All right, actually it's taken from today's gospel or this Sunday's gospel. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me. And Jesus addresses this to each one of his missionary disciples. Remember, we're talking about how Matthew, in chapter 10 of his gospel, introduces us all to the idea of being missionary disciples. And he addresses them saying, at the end of this chapter, whoever welcomes you welcomes me. These are quite huge words if you think about it, okay? In other words, if I don't know if it's too small to be seen there, right at the bottom, it says that we are called as missionary disciples to be representatives of Christ. It's like being an ambassador of your country, you know? No matter the way you are, will be the way others think about your country, right? If you're the ambassador, I'm Singaporean, and then they'll think all Singaporeans are like that. Or I'm Filipino, and they'll think that all Filipinos are like that. So the way they look at you, they will think that Jesus is like that. And many times I ask Jesus, are you serious, Jesus? You're not ashamed to have me as your face to other people? And Jesus is saying, yeah, whoever receives you receives me. You are my presence to people in this world today. And that is what it means to be Christian. So it's quite a tall order, no? They say it's quite a huge calling. But that's what the gospel is trying to tell us. You are my presence to others in your family, in your workplace, in society, with the people you see every day. You are me. You are me. So this is somehow the theme, no? If you like, of this Sunday's gospel, being representatives of Christ as his disciples. You can see those guys there, right? The 12 apostles, they were the face of Jesus. In the Acts of the Apostles, Jesus was not around anymore, and they were the face of Jesus Christ. So just a little bit, no? Last week, we were just connect a bit to last week. We were talking about the prophetic prayer of a missionary disciple, how a disciple prays like a prophet, prays in order to share the faith to others, not to share the message that God says to us and to share it with others. But the main spirit, I would say, there was, so don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be a prophet. You are worth more than many sparrows. No, the assurance of Jesus to us. You know how precious you are to me. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to be my prophet in the world today. No, you are worth a lot to me. And Jesus assures us of that value a missionary disciple has in his eyes. So anyway, that was last week. So this week, let's go into this, being representatives. So the missionary disciple is a representative of Christ. Okay, we were saying that in the beginning. But in a very special way, is a representative of God's holiness. Now we're getting serious here, okay? So it's not just that I represent Jesus and they see the face of Jesus in me. It means that they see God's holiness, hopefully, through me, through my life. Let's go into this a little bit more. No, right now you might be objecting in your heart. No, are you kidding me, Father? Yeah. I know I'm trying my best, but to represent God's holiness, that's uh, another ball game here. No, let's take it calmly. What does this mean to represent God's holiness in the world? And let's look at the gospel again today. Whoever receives you receives me, and whoever receives me receives the one who sent me. And who's the one who sent Jesus? The Father, no? So whoever receives us receives Jesus and the Holy Trinity into their lives. That's the power. Can you imagine? So if you share your faith to somebody and the people listen to you and they accept it, the presence of the Trinity goes into them. Wow, just like that? Yeah, that's what Jesus is saying. And listen again, no? Whoever receives a prophet because he is a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. So we were talking about prophetic prayer and all that, no? And then he goes further, not just a prophet, whoever receives a holy man because he is a holy man will receive a holy man's reward. Well, holiness again, no? And this, if you remember the first reading, we were talking about Elijah as a holy man, no? But the important part of this passage is the last verse. And you should notice the word and. So you might be thinking, whoever receives you receives me, right? It talks about prophet and holy, and it's like, oh, is that supposed to be me? And then he says, and whoever gives only a cup of cold water. Do you notice the contrast here? One is about receiving somebody into your house. Another is the last part he just says, but you just give a cup of cold water to one of these little ones. Who's he talking about? His disciples. Just a cup of cold water to one of these little ones to drink because the little one is a disciple. Amen, I say to you, he will surely not lose his reward. He's like saying the reward will be even greater than that of receiving a holy man or a prophet in your house. If you receive a disciple of mine into your house, or just to give them a cup of cold water, your reward will be greater. Your reward, you definitely will not lose your reward. What is Jesus saying here? There's something special about the presence of his disciples in the world. There have been prophets before Christianity. There have been holy people before Christianity. And Jesus is saying it is more valuable than all of those that have come before me. It is more valuable than them to have a missionary disciple in the world. If you are my disciple, if you follow me in mission, you will be more valuable than a prophet or a holy man and women of those times with the long beards, fasting, austere. I think we are all not. Says you don't have to do that. You just have to follow me, and you will be very important for the world. So why are we so important? No, look, this is what Jesus is saying. The movement from the Old Testament to the New Testament means this: from prophets, from holy men and holy women as well. There were holy women in the Old Testament, to missionary disciples in the world. The importance of ambassadors for Christ. Actually, this was the term of St. Paul, no, in 1 Corinthians. We are ambassadors for Christ. We represent Jesus himself. So it's not just a holy person there. It's not just a prophet. It's Jesus himself when there is a missionary disciple in their midst. There's a little question, no, that we can have to ponder in our as we begin these guidelines. Can you see yourself as a representative of Christ? I see somebody there very confidently shaking his head. Can you see yourself as his ambassador? He wants us to be his face, his presence in the world. I like this image here. When you look in the mirror, can you see Jesus? It's like, when I look in the mirror in the morning, oops. Well, we haven't combed our hair, we haven't washed our face. That's the one Jesus says, this face will be my face. Could you be my face? It's a grace from God, the grace that comes from baptism that he wants us to discover. If you ask this question, can you see yourself as a representative of Christ? If your answer is no immediately, why don't you pray about why not? What is it about yourself that you think you cannot be his representative? If your answer is yes, I hope so, is yes also, it's not proud, okay? We might think, oh, it's so proud to say I'm the representative of Christ. No, that is what Jesus himself says. If your answer is yes, why yes? How could we be the representative of Christ today? Me. And perhaps we can also ask, has Jesus already been trying to send me as his representative to someone? Just think about this past week. Has he actually been trying to send me already as his representative to someone? And maybe I just didn't take it seriously. No, that's why I asked, why not? No, it's like sometimes we feel that God is trying to send us to someone to share his love, to be his comfort, and then immediately in the mind it says, no, it can't be. Can't be me. Maybe somebody else. Was there somebody he was trying to send you to already? As him today, this week, or this time. Okay, let's go a bit into this question of why. Why the need for representatives of Christ? You might be saying, no, okay, this sounds very nice. What is the need for this representative? It's a very simple answer. Because there is a hunger for holiness in the world. There is a hunger for holiness in the world. You might not think, I don't know if, will you think so? That people are actually hungry for holiness. Not necessarily hungry for religion, but hungry for holiness. More and more people are going to the websites, searching for different ways of being satisfied. More and more people are going for pilgrimages, to go to sacred places, even if they don't go to church, but they would go for a pilgrimage. More and more people are doing all kinds of things to look for something that they don't have, and maybe they don't know what it is. In our terms, we call it holiness. They're looking for something. But I'll just show you something of a news report that I was reading. This was 5 years ago, okay? But maybe it's still valid. It was written by from The Guardian. And it says there, in an article that says why faith is becoming more and more popular, not less and less. It says there, if you think religion belongs to the past and we live in a new age of reason, you need to check out the facts. Means you're wrong. 84% of the world's population identifies with a religious group. Members of this demographic are generally younger. So it's the younger people who want some kind of religious association and produce more children, of course, we know, so, than those who have no religious affiliation. So the world is getting more religious, not less. Although there are significant geographical variations. Some countries, perhaps we call more developed so-called countries, they might feel that it's becoming less popular. But in general, in the whole world, many people are seeking some kind of faith. And even we talk about developed countries, they're looking for faith as well. Sorry, I have to mention Spain. That's where Burundy comes from. And it's funny that many people don't go to church anymore in Spain, but they still have baptisms without a priest. They still have weddings in the church without a priest. They don't want any religious affiliation We don't want the priest. We are against the church, but we still want our child to be baptized. So what is that? What is that? It means it's still, the person is still longing for something that is beyond them. It's just that officially, I'm a nun. Have you heard of the term? I'm a nun. Means I have no religious affiliation. And perhaps in the States, no, they had that term, I'm a nun. Well, what religion do you have? I'm a nun. You know, so there's a lot of this going on, but deep inside, the human heart speaks louder. They want some kind of feeling of the sacred. They don't want to call it God, but something beyond themselves. So these are just some statistics, not just to awaken our minds a bit. That was the population in 5 years ago, okay? Christians were 31.2% of that 84% that we said. Muslims are 24.1%. Hindus 15.1%. Buddhists 6.9%, not really growing. Folk religions, meaning animists or believing in nature, are 6%. And others, I'm sorry to use the term others, okay? But there are many other religions, very official religions, that form only 1%. And Jews, just specifically because it's one of the roots of organized religion, is only 0.2%. I read an article just this year, and it says probably in maybe another 30 years, the number of Muslims will grow to be equal to the number of Christians. But by and large, Christianity will still be the biggest religion in the world, according to those statistics. We don't know, okay? It's just predictions. But why am I showing you all this stuff? No, it's just to see that really there is a hunger for holiness still. And religions represent that in different ways. Holiness can be expressed in fasting, asceticism, going to a holy place. But there is a holiness that is part of human longing. Let us go back to the first reading. Talking about hunger, no? I really love this passage. That picture there is an image of Elisha with the one who was welcoming him. The story goes, no, one day Elisha came to Shunem, where there was a woman of influence. So she was not a poor lady there begging. No, she was a woman of influence who urged him to dine with her. And afterward, whenever he passed by, he used to stop there to dine. And she told her husband, look, I am sure the man who is constantly passing our way must be a holy man of God. And in all the interactions, it just ended there. Elisha promised to her, no, asking, because you are so welcoming to me, what can be the reward that a holy man can give from God? And he promised, this time next year, he said, you will hold a son in your arms, because they were advanced in age and they didn't have children. So there are two things I would like to highlight here in this first reading of this Sunday. First, to recognize the thirst for holiness in the world. This woman welcomed Elisha into her house because she was thirsting for holiness. I hope that is why sometimes you invite us to your house. But I'm not saying that you should invite us for lunch, okay? That's not the point of today's guidelines. Because maybe we're not that holy either. But it's like there is a certain thirst, right, in all of us. It's not that our lives are bad. It's not that our lives are sinful or we are desperate. Life is okay. But there's still a thirst for something more. And this was the thirst of that woman. I mean, she didn't have a bad life. She was a faithful woman. She was quite well-to-do. But she sensed, I want to bring this man into my house. So there's a thirst in everyone. And I'm inviting you also to see the thirst in the people around you. The thirst of holiness in your family, your friends, in different expressions, okay? What does it mean, a thirst for holiness? Which is the second point in the first reading we saw today. that they are longing for a divine gift or blessing. A fruit, the child, no, that could only come from God. There's a thirst for something that can only come from as a divine blessing. A longing for mystery, for surprise, a longing for newness in life. For those who have gone through the midlife crisis, I think you know what I mean. You're doing the same thing again and again and everything, and life is okay. But it's like, what's next? What's new today? What more can life offer me? Like next in line, the song. There's a longing for something, and God created us like that. God created us like that, longing for that something more. And Pope Francis loves to call it mystery. The church is losing a bit the sense of mystery. We control everything, we manage everything, we organize everything. But where is the mystery of God? And that is what people need. Think about the people around you, those who like to talk about the supernatural. Maybe not Jesus Christ, okay? To talk about, I don't know, the ghosts around here. Would like to talk about our ancestors who have passed on, our parents, perhaps even. There's something of a longing when people start talking about that. They want to go beyond the routine of life. Who are those people in your life who have that thirst? This is what I would like to invite you to pray for today. Because as missionary disciples, we are also invited to sense and to be sensitive to what we could share also with them. Perhaps we can think also, what does it mean to long for holiness today? There are many expressions. One is longing for wisdom. When you long for wisdom, you long for virtue, you long for a good life. There are people like that. So maybe they don't talk about God, but they talk about making the right choices. That is a longing for somebody else to tell me what to do, right? And somebody else to help me to be a good person when I cannot and I feel helpless. That's a longing for holiness. Sometimes it's a longing for a break from all the routine. Maybe we might not spontaneously talk about going for mass when we need a break. But there are people who identify with that also. I used to do that. Maybe I'm one of the crazy ones, During the lunch break, didn't have anything to do, and I went for mass to break the routine. Why not? Why not? Because it's a longing for something more than just the daily humdrum, of life. Maybe it's a longing for a higher ideal. Life needs to be better. Society needs to be better. And these people are longing for something of holiness. A sense of wholeness. Just something is not complete in my life. I think we all have that feeling. Life is fine, it's okay. It's just not complete. So maybe we might not even think of this in other people. No, maybe it's we ourselves. No, we have these longings inside of us. And you might be surprised, God wants to offer His holiness for that. For a sense of benevolence, somebody to be kind to me. Have you ever felt that? I just want, for today, can somebody be kind to me? I'm always kind to other people. Well, maybe not, no, but I try to be kind to other people. Just for today, can I feel somebody who does something for free for me? That's a longing also for somebody holy, right? For a higher being or a bigger reality. I want to make sense of life. If life can't just be about me, can't just be about my struggles, it can't just be about my work and trying to get life going and to wake up and to go to sleep and to go to the CR. No, I need to feel I belong to a bigger reality and that there's someone greater than myself, because to manage everything myself is too heavy. is too much of a burden. There must be someone else out there. For deeper meaning or greater purpose to why we are here, there must be some reason why I'm still here. It's like my tita before, no, when she was in the 90s. I don't know why I'm still here. My husband left me 30 years ago and went to heaven. And I'm by myself. My children are all grown up. And she used to call me Father Mike. I said, Tita, don't call me Father Mike. I'm Mike, still Mike. I was like, Father Mike, can you ask God what I'm still doing here? There's a longing, no, for meaning and purpose for our lives. Sometimes it's for solitude and silence. I just want to be alone. I just need some silence to listen deeply. With all the gadgets nowadays that are bombarding our minds with information, like a moment of silence is like being in heaven. And in fact, there was a document in the church just released this year in May, advising us, take that time of silence, please. It's about social media. The church speaks finally about social media, and it's about advising us, take some silent time, go to church. But sometimes it's the opposite. Holiness can be longing for companionship and intimacy. Someone who understands me. Where I sit down. Have you ever felt that before? You sit down and you suddenly start to cry. So what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I suddenly feel somebody knows what's happening in my life. That intimacy, that companionship for someone, a companion. So it's, holiness can be different things at different moments of our life. I'm doing this is to help us to see that holiness is not just to put your hands together like that. Look up to heaven and tilt it a bit, and you look like San Antonio. It's much more than that. And the holiness as Christians that we can offer to our friends, our family, and people is also much more than that. And I'm sure in this list, you will know somebody at this moment who feels like that. Just listen to them, just speak to them a bit, and you will feel it. Even we as missionaries in our house, amongst us as brothers, we will feel that one of us needs something of this. And I, as a missionary disciple, in that moment, I can offer some holiness to him or to her. This is just a little bit of sociology or social psychology. There's this book I invite you to read. If you like to figure out a bit more what's happening to us nowadays, okay? It's by Byung-Chul Han. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Okay, he's a Korean. He grew up in Germany, and in fact, he wrote this book in German. But it's called The Burnout Society. It's very interesting to read what's happening to our world today. That we are burnt out all the time. And the keywords that I tried to take out what I understood from this book, that the modern problem we have is of abundance, positivization, he calls it, which leads to boredom and perpetual tiredness. It's not a physical tiredness. There's a kind of tiredness that you feel and you're happy, but there's a tiredness that you feel that you can't do anything about it. And then you just spend hours on your tablet trying to relax, but you can't relax. And then he also says there's a kind of I tiredness and there's a kind of we tiredness. There's a kind of tiredness that you can share with others and you feel fulfilled after that. You have a long day and you talk and you share, and then after that you feel, okay, I'm still tired physically, but inside I can go to rest. And there's an I tiredness where you feel alone. And even though you're so tired, you can't sleep. What's going on with us today? And this is something of a longing for holiness. If we connect it, I mean, he's a social psychologist, okay, and a philosopher, but we connect this to spirituality. There is something happening in our society that makes it harder to look for holiness. And that's where we come in. We need to be aware and to offer it. We can offer it. What? Just a little bit of these words. Now, abundance, it means that we used to eat meat only once a week, for example. And now we eat meat every day. So there's nothing new about Sunday. We used to dress well for Sundays, for church. And now we dress well every day because of abundance in society nowadays. So there's nothing special anymore about Sunday. I'm not just saying this in a religious sense of Sunday. It means that life becomes monotonous. There's nothing to look forward to anymore because every day we have what we want. I mean, are we supposed to go back to deprive ourselves? I don't know, maybe, but that's not his point. The point is, let's accept the fact that affects us. There is no more routine that makes us look forward to something in life. Another term he uses is positivization, to make everything positive, to take away sadness, to take away pain, to not have mourning, to fill every single moment of our lives with something positive, positive feelings, gadgets, and all whatever, so that we will never feel lonely, we will never feel boredom, we will never feel all these things. When we do that, everything is so positive already, and we cannot deal with the longing anymore. We lose the capacity or the courage to face our longings. So then it leads to boredom, because life becomes routine. Everything is the same, even though it's good. Remember what I said? Even though everything is good, but we are still bored and we still get tired. So that is what he calls a burned out society today. So what are we supposed to do? The missionary disciple who preaches God's word by words and by action, or by the life itself, becomes a representative of holiness. So what can we do in this burnout society? Offer holiness. Offer an alternative of satisfaction, of newness that people are all looking for. When people ask us in Bourbon Day, what are we here for? What do we offer the church? That there are congregations who work for the poor, who work for the less fortunate, the depressed, all kinds of extreme situations. What Bourbon Day we said? We are here for ordinary people. Ordinary people for whom life seems okay externally, but they're still longing for something more. That is what we want to offer. That newness of life's mystery, of the surprising blessing of God. People are still looking, I want some surprise in my life, And it has a lot to do with God. It has a lot to do with compassion. It has a lot to do with love and mission. What is lacking in people's life? Mission. Something that I can't control. Something that will be a surprise every time, that is exciting, that I need to look forward to. So how can we do it? Okay, so this is the part we perhaps the last element I'd like to talk about in these guidelines, and but perhaps the most challenging part to understand, but it's the core of Christianity. What kind of holiness can we offer? Okay, because we're talking about offering, being representatives and all that, but what does it mean to offer that exactly? What is Christian holiness? It is the holiness of death to new life. It's a very basic principle that Jesus taught us in his death and resurrection. No, we just finished the we didn't just finish. We finished the season of Lent and Easter. It's about death and resurrection, the core holiness that Jesus came to teach us. It says, when we were baptized, this is the second reading, by the way, of this Sunday. When we were baptized in Christ Jesus, we were baptized in his death. So dying has something to do with our faith, okay? Not just the last day of our lives, okay? In other words, when we were baptized, we went into the tomb with him and joined him in death. Hey, St. Paul, what are you talking about? Have you gone to the tomb with Jesus? Have you ever thought about it? That when you were baptized, you are supposed to go to the tomb with Jesus. That we are supposed to die. So that as Christ was raised from the dead by the Father's glory, we too might live a new life. Our spirituality, our holiness is about newness, a new life. But for something new to come out, something old has to die. You just think about today, just today. If you want to enjoy this day, something in you had to die. Does it make sense? Is it too deep? I mean, think about it. If you wanted to come to the school of the word today, you had to die to what? Laziness. You had to die to all the normal resistances about waking up, being on time, traffic, all these old thoughts that you would have. You say, I forget it. If I keep thinking about these things, I'm not going to enjoy today. You have to die to something. And that's why you're here, hopefully enjoying the school of the word with us. But it happens in everything in life, in all relationships also. Even in your closest relationships, if you want that newness in that old relationship, something of yourself old has to die. Am I making sense? Or do I have to elaborate with very specific examples? Whether it's in marriage, friendship, community, something always has to die. But if you decide to die to ourselves, that newness comes. And what is the main problem of human beings? We hold on to what is old. We hold on to what we want. We hold on to what is for ourselves, we got used to, and then we don't open ourselves to newness in life. Just think about it. It has different levels. It happens in our thoughts that leads to some feelings. For example, very simple, forgiveness has to do with that. I don't want to die to that grudge. I'm still holding on somehow. And that stops me from that newness in that relationship. I'm simplifying it, okay? Forgiveness is kind of complex, but in anything, something old has to die. And why did Jesus die for us? So that we will not be afraid to die. He's trying to teach us, you will rise again. Don't worry. Don't be afraid to die to your own pride sometimes, the ego, your opinions, your preference. You will rise again. Trust me, because I went through it. That's what he's saying by his death and resurrection. Because that's the fear to die that's in us. We are all afraid of dying, but when our faith teaches us, I'm talking about physical death now, okay? But our faith teaches us not to be afraid also, and to see it in a different way, right? Right? And so this is the same in our daily life. Our daily life, helping others not to be afraid. Sometimes when yesterday I just visited someone in a hospital and he was supposedly dying. I mean, what can you say? Without Christian faith, what could you say to comfort someone? But with Christian faith, you could say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. God is with you in your journey. And you're continuing your journey. It's not ending. It's still a journey. Because we believe that you will rise again. And it makes a whole lot of difference to the disposition of how that person can experience newness, even though he feels and perhaps knows that he's dying. What is holiness that is Christian all about? No? Holiness, this is just a qualification here. Holiness is not about being worthy of God. Okay, we have to take away that idea little by little. Holiness is not about being worthy of God. but humbly receiving his love as a pure gift. It's a gift. Holiness is a gift. We don't work hard to be holy. We receive the holiness from God. That's why Jesus said, whoever receives you, receives me. So the fact that they just accept you humbly, what you're saying, they will receive the holiness of God. It's a gift. It is about belonging to God and prioritizing him in everything we have and in everything we do, even our closest relationships, to make God our priority, because we know that that will help us receive holiness, receive newness, receive companionship, receive silence. Remember all the things we're saying? Just receive it by prioritizing God in our lives. So this will lead us to understand that very tough passage of this coming Sunday. Okay, can I shift the next slide? Is it okay? It's anyway. I really have no problem to send all these in slides if you want. This tough passage tells us this: anyone who prefers father or mother to me is not worthy of me, and anyone who prefers son or daughter to me is not worthy of me. So whoever prioritizes others before me will not receive holiness. Oh my God. Anyone who does not take his cross and follow in my footsteps is not worthy of me. So how do we receive that holiness? Take up your cross. Humility. What is the cross about? Very simply, humility. Humble enough to die, remember, to die, and you will rise again. Anyone who finds his life will lose it, and anyone who loses his life for my sake, because he's my missionary disciple, or she's my missionary disciple, will find their lives. Somehow, if I might summarize again, if we talk about priorities in life, this is what Jesus is saying when he talks about relationships. There's something very painful about dying with people we love. And what is it? The painful recognition that we are not enough for those we love. This is something very painful to recognize. We are not enough for those we love. Those who are parents, you just think about it. Why do your kids have to get married? Why do they have to get out of the nest? I'm sorry, because mom, dad, I know you love me, but it's not enough. I need my own life. I need to move forward. I need to move on. And if just thinking about that, it applies to every single person. We are not, don't take it negatively, okay? If we need to learn to respond to this as a fact of life, everybody needs holiness. Everybody needs God, even husbands and wives. Even between husbands and wives, we need holiness, something that goes beyond all of us. But the moment we accept that fact, even though it's painful at times, right? Empty nest syndrome is painful. Even it's painful at times, it's a fact of life. And it's a call for us also to search for that. This is dying as well. We are dying to that image of ourselves that we are enough for others. We are not. And that's why we introduce them to God. I'll just finish with this slide. It's about priorities, okay? I think it's easy to prioritize church before our family. Well, easier, not always. But it's harder to prioritize God before social media. Maybe that's the harder priority to take out. These are some words from what we call the dicastery for communication. So there's a branch, if you like, or department in the church that tries to study and research into how we use social media, communications, etc. And recently in May, this document came out which calls itself towards full presence, meaning something about holiness has to do with presence. A pastoral reflection on engagement with social media. I just want to read this and then we can finish the guidelines because there's something to say here. It says they're talking about families. No? Sharing a meal at table is our first education in attention to others, no, not to the phones, but to each other. Even though we don't know what to say sometimes, we try to take away the phone. The key word is attention, okay? A fostering of relationships among family members, neighbors, friends, and even colleagues. Likewise, we participate with the whole person at the altar. Okay, what is it talking about now? The Mass. Mind, spirit, and body are involved. When we talk about holiness, the body is also involved. The liturgy, the Mass, if you like, is a sensory experience, means the senses are all involved. We enter into the Eucharistic mystery, into the holiness of the Eucharist through the doors of the senses, the eyes, the body, etc. Senses that are awakened and fed, nourished in their need for beauty, meaning, harmony, vision, interaction, and even emotion. So these are the different aspects of holiness, if you remember, no? Above all, the Eucharist is not something that we can just watch. What are they talking about? Online masses. It is something that truly or should truly nourish us fully, not even physically, the body. So the church is very clear about its opinion. No, now there's always this thing about online. I mean, there are still circumstances that we still need online masses, especially for the sick, for the elderly who still cannot go to church. But the church is saying if we make that a habit, we're going to miss out a lot on holiness. Holiness, which is just being there in body as well. Okay, so now just some questions for our prayer based on what we have been listening now. Just a recap, no? I invite you to ponder and to dialogue with Jesus about it, no? And to ask him, can I see myself as a representative of Christ? Why yes, why not? No? Has Jesus already been trying to send me as his representative to someone? We already said that in the beginning. Second question, what does holiness of life mean for people around me today? Now, what does it mean, holiness? Because we have all those very religious ideas, but there are more concrete expressions of the longing for holiness. How can I share with them the holiness of Christian life in myself? And number three, in the age of social media, how can we help each other grow again in prioritizing Christ in our lives? Okay, in an age of social media, how can we help each other grow again? It's not something spontaneous. We can't do it immediately. But how can we encourage each other to prioritize Christ in a very real way in our lives? You know, those maybe our family members and others around us. Okay, so we can have this time of silence to pray about them, and we can have our sharing in a while.